All right, so we have the new trailer for No Time to Die that just released. So, what are your thoughts on the trailer?
Um, I enjoyed it. I have been a long time Bond fan, so when the trailer started with like the theme music like remix that hit home, that hit home a lot. I'm I don't know. A part of me is a little apprehensive just because personally for me I was let down by the previous Daniel Craig Bond film Spectre.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not entirely sure how this will go, especially since they like appear to be like continuing whatever storyline they started in Spectre, which I was not a personal fan of since they're bringing back Christoph Waltz as Blofeld, they're bringing back I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, Leigh Sado as his love interest Madeline.
Hmm.
So and apparently like now Madeline has like a larger role, which I'm okay with because she's a great actress. I just don't know like how this will follow from Spectre. But
Right.
Cary Joji Fukunaga, the director, I hear he's a great director. Directed the first season of True Detective, and that was widely acclaimed. My girl Anna de Armas is in the film, and I'm just really excited to see her like in this action role back with Daniel Craig after Knives Out. And I don't know, I'm I'm interested as always as a Bond fan. I'm definitely gonna go see it. A little apprehensive, but I mean, who knows how it'll go. I'm hoping I'll be surprised. What about you?
Yeah. I really like the trailer. I think I'm excited partially because of the cast. I mean, Ana de Armas, Knives Out. She's great in her small role in Blade Runner 2049. Uh, I'm just really excited for her to be in a leading role or somewhat of a leading role. Jeffrey Wright is always great.
Mhm.
Uh, Daniel Craig, I think he's the best James Bond, and I think he shows it every time he's on screen. He just feels real and kind of embraces a modern version of James Bond, whereas the old versions tended to be a little bit hokey and
That's
just kind
fair.
of
Yeah.
like you're like, oh, this is kind of weird.
Mhm.
I guess the new versions are unrealistic in its own way and kind of the big action scenes and stuff that couldn't happen in real life, but they feel like they're tonally they feel grounded in realism.
Yeah, that's fair.
And this trailer brings that out.
Yeah, they really did the franchise a solid by going the Christopher Nolan route and going to like a more grounded, like realistic vibe. And also like Rami Malek as the villain. I'm really excited to see him.
Yeah, I mean, you have Rami Malek and Christoph Waltz as your villains.
Yeah, like that's a hell of a cat. That's a hell of like a duo right there.
Yeah,
And I'm just really glad more people are like falling in love with Rami Malek now after what was it, Bohemian Rhapsody.
yeah, yeah. People missed. I know he's in iRobot, I believe,
Mhm.
which is supposed to be fantastic. And I saw him in a Short Term 12, which is a
Okay, I
small
remember.
indie film, and
Yeah.
he's great in that.
Mhm.
But the cast is just awesome. I mean, Naomi Harris is great. Gosh, I'm blanking on her name. She's like the new 007 in the film.
Oh, Lashana Lynch from
Lashana Lynch. Yeah,
Captain
she was in
Marvel.
Captain Marvel, right? Yeah. Um, I think I'm just really excited to see this film
Mhm.
overall, and I think the trailer boosted that. Does it stick to its release date? I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
This movie had problems beforehand in pre-production.
Mhm.
Danny Boyle was originally attached as a director, and he left over creative differences.
Right.
Um, so this film's kind of been a mess at the beginning, at least figuring out what the story was going to be,
Mhm.
which tends to me tends to make me a little bit cautious when I'm getting excited for a film because that usually means there's not everyone's on the same page for the vision.
Right.
But I have faith that with the cast, with the director, that it's going to end up it's at least going to be enjoyable.
Yeah,
It may not be the best Bond film, like Sky. I think Skyfall is the best
yeah,
Bond film.
Skyfall is incredible. I mean, like sometimes things come from like chaotic productions. I mean, Jaws with Steven Spielberg. was like a disaster, like not disaster, but like it was chaotic behind the scenes, and then you
It
know,
was a disaster. There's no way
yeah,
it wasn't.
right. And then it became like one of the biggest films of all time. So I mean, I at the very least I will be entertained. I think like even with Spectre, like as much as I disagreed with the film, like I was still like I can still watch and like be entertained by like all the stuff like Sam Mendes and Daniel Craig did. So I'm excited to see Craig's last outing as Bond. It's gonna be he was like our generation's Bond basically. So
Right.
it's gonna be end of an era.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Well, moving on to a film that I think is going to be bigger than Bond, Dune.
Yes. Oh
We
my God.
got the new magazine covers released for Empire magazine, I believe it is, showing off the outfits. We've seen some new stills, and there is a trailer coming. I believe it's
September
next week.
yeah, September 9th. So 5 days
Yeah,
to go. 5 days to go.
yeah. So I read the book so just recently. The book's fantastic.
I have to get on
Um,
that. I have to get on that.
yeah, I'm really curious about how they're going to adapt it because it is not an easy book to adapt.
Well,
But
oh, you keep going.
yeah, no, that's fine. They have the cast and they have the director to do it. They have Denis Villeneuve,
Mhm.
who is just an expert of sci-fi. If you've seen Arrival or Blade Runner
Right.
2049, and he's also an expert of character work. If you've seen Prisoners, you know that
Mhm.
Prisoners is an amazing film, and it brings out amazing performances and people like Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal,
And
and Paul Dano, who are just fantastic. And this cast is maybe the best cast list I've ever seen.
yeah, this cast is like I remember when I first heard about this film, I was like, oh, like I didn't know like a book. I didn't realize this was Villeneuve's next project. But I checked out, I saw this cast, and I was like, holy cow! Like the fact they were able to assembling any like three of these people would have been incredible. But the fact they got like everyone from Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, even like Jason Momoa. Like I remember telling my friends about this cast, and they're just like, how in the world did they get Aquaman, MJ, and like Thanos, and like that's only and like Poe Dameron in the same cast, and like under this director, um, the cast is like incredible. I'm I don't know, and like you said, Villeneuve is such a great director. I first film I saw from him was Blade Runner, so I know he can do sci-fi. I know he can do like big scale like blockbuster really well without like losing sight of like the characters. So, and I think at least recalling what I've read about it, I believe they're trying to do it. They're going to do a two-part adaptation.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So
So the first movie is only going to cover the first half of the book.
okay.
Um, so yeah, I think it's important to note that like people like Zendaya have been a large part of the marketing.
Hmm.
Um, but just to kind of temper people's expectations, she's not going to be a massive part of the film. She said it herself. She plays a small role, and based on the book and kind of my guesstimation, I guess, on how they'd adapt it, she's not too relevant within the first half
Okay.
of the book. So the first half of the movie, it wouldn't make sense for her to be in a lot.
Right. Well, I mean,
So
oh sorry.
yeah. Just going ahead, I think Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, who is the mom of Timothy Chalamet, who plays Paul Atreides.
Right.
Those are going to be the two main characters. Um, you got Josh Brolin in there, who plays a pretty important character, and Jason Momoa. I think based on the book, they always change stuff for the movies to make it kind of flow better and be a better adaptation as a whole. You have to make differences, but based on the book, I wouldn't get too excited over Jason Momoa. He'll probably be great, but it's
Mhm.
probably a 4 to 5 minute role.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit saddened by that. I do love Jason Momoa.
Right. But here's the thing. They could completely change an aspect from the book
Right.
and he could be a much larger part.
Mhm.
He's a supporting character. That's what he
Right.
is.
I mean,
Oscar Isaac's a leading character and Javier Bardem is a pretty important character. Those are the ones I think that are standouts as who to look for in the
so
cast.
like overall, like if you had to like your core trio in this, at least the first part, as someone who's read it, who would be like, obviously it'd be Chalamet as
Yeah,
Paul, and
it'd
then
be
you said
Chalamet as Paul, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, and probably Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto.
okay,
So that's the family. That's the two parents and then the son.
that's exciting all in its own, just those three alone.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
am I'm just really glad Rebecca Ferguson is also getting more attention and more hype for she. I think she's a very underrated actress.
she really is. She's great. She was in the latest Mission Impossible, correct?
Latest Mission Impossible. She was in the Shining sequel, Doctor
Yeah.
Sleep. She absolutely killed it there. So I'm just really happy she's gonna be like holding her own like against everyone. She's more than capable of doing it. Um, I'm just really glad people are gonna be seeing more of her.
Yeah. I think if people are looking for like what is Dune,
Mhm.
Dune is one of the things that I believe after reading the book, it came out before Star Wars,
Okay.
and it feels like Star Wars took a lot of aspects from Dune.
Mhm.
And I'd say it's kind of Star Wars. Dune is Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings, or Star Wars meets Game of Thrones.
That's the vibe
Um,
I was getting to. Yeah. Even
that's
as
kind
someone,
of what it looks like.
yeah, even as someone who hasn't read it, like just reading off like the plot summaries they've like put in the promotional materials, like you have like the House Harkonnen. How do you pronounce that?
That's correct.
Okay, Harkonnen, and then House Atreides.
Atreides.
Atreides. Okay, so just like seeing these two like groups, like that's not like that is some serious like Game of Thrones, and I don't know, it just recalls a lot of like these. I don't know. I'm just like expecting like epic like scope, epic. Will there be like epic battles, little from the book, like
Yeah,
sequences like
I
that?
want I want to not I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, even though it's a book and I know the book's already come out, I
Mhm.
still don't want to go through it. What I will say is Stellan Skarsgård playing the Baron, which is the head of House Harkonnen,
Right.
is going to be great as
All
a
right.
villain, and it's very Game of Thrones in how it plays out.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear.
It's very it's games within games within games. It's that sort of thing.
Who, as someone who's read the book, who do you think is like could be the most like accurate or like the best like they match like who is the Downey Jr. as Iron Man type casting out of everyone here?
I think Timothy Chalamet. I mean, I read the book and I was like, that is Timothy Chalamet.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is he's a little older than his character is.
Okay.
But I actually don't think age is that important to his character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's fine. And because of that, I think he's perfect casting because it's a really sophisticated role,
Right.
and how you have to portray emotions. Is that it's more of the fantasy aspect of it that makes it complicated on how you're going to put that on the screen as opposed to in a book. And I think Timothy Chalamet as an actor has the ability to do that. I think he's one of the best actors at kind of conveying emotion without saying anything.
Right.
And that's what's really important to this role.
Mm-hmm.
It's a glance, it's how you move your eyes, it's, you know, the little differences in intonation are really important, all really important for this role.
That's
And he
awesome.
has all of the things that do that.
That's awesome to hear.
The other one that
Yeah.
I think is perfect casting is Dave Bautista as the Beast Raban,
Mm-hmm.
uh, who's part of House Harkonnen.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's not a massive part in the book, but I think he's going to be a larger part in the movie from what I've read.
Okay.
And when I pictured the Beast Raban, Dave Bautista is like the perfect casting for that.
I mean, dude is a beast. I mean, dude's huge.
Yeah, he is. And the other thing about it is, I was listening to an interview that Denis Villeneuve did recently about Dune, and he
Mm-hmm.
talks about how he didn't want to cast Dave Bautista in Blade Runner 2049.
Right.
He was really against it.
Mm-hmm.
And, the producers pushed and pushed and got Dave Bautista in the film. And he was like, oh, wow, I need to work with him again.
Yeah.
Because Dave Bautista has a small role in Blade Runner 2049, but he's
Right.
amazing in that small role.
Yeah, he that's like my favorite like Batista role. Like I like coming from off of like him as Drax in the MCU. I never like I just never thought like he would be able to like portray such a role even as small as it was. So that's good to hear. He seems to be a good fit for the character from what I've read because he's supposed to be like the enforcer, like brute
Yeah,
type character, right?
exactly.
That's
He's
awesome to
he's not the brains, that's for sure.
hear. That's awesome to hear. I'm excited.
Yeah, so moving on, let's go to The Devil All the Time.
Ah, yes,
So I know you're really excited about this film. This film
yes.
comes out soon on Netflix. I believe it's September 16th it comes out.
Mhm,
So we have the director Antonio Campos, who also wrote the screenplay,
mhm.
starring Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, Haley Bennett, Bill
Yep.
Skarsgård, Sebastian Stan.
Jason Clark.
Yeah, I mean this cast is awesome,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the trailers for this movie, I don't know exactly what it's about. Um, I believe it's an adaptation.
Yes, it is an adaptation of a 2010, 2011, I believe, book by this guy named Donald Ray Pollock, and it's supposed to be like it's set like right after I believe World War II or something like that, and it's
Yeah,
how like all these characters like all of them are like damaged, messed up in their own like ways, and it's how they all like intersect, and at the center of it is Tom Holland's character.
right,
I believe like that's basically the gist of how the story unfolds.
right. It's one of those stories where it's like it gives you the starting off point, and then things start to unravel. Is kind
Yeah,
of how it seems.
in a way, yeah.
Uh, I'm just really the tone. I think one of the things about trailers is you have to capture the tone,
Yes.
and there's some movies that don't, or some trailers, I should say, where you know the movie's going to be bad
Hmm.
because the tone's either off or you can't tell what it is.
Right.
And both of those are red flags, and you
Hmm.
don't see either of them in the trailer, which
No,
doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie, but it means there's a better chance. And at least you know.
there's a consistent like vision and like idea of what the film is presented through the trailer.
Yeah. And I'm really excited because Robert Pattinson's in this. And
Hmm.
I think after Twilight, he's done an amazing job of choosing roles.
Yes.
He's really picky. Uh, we know that he turned down Guardians of the Galaxy. He was originally going to be, I believe, Pratt's role as Star Lord
Right.
is what he was up for, and he said, "You know what? This isn't the right time for me. I'm not 100% in it. No." And that's a script that if you'd read the script, you would have been like, "This is crazy,"
Yeah.
but this is also kind of
Really
amazing.
good. Yeah.
Um, so he's really picky, and he's done great independent films. If you've seen The High Life, gosh, what's the one he does with the Safdie brothers called?
Good
Good Time.
time.
Yeah,
The Lighthouse with Robert Eggers.
right. And those are just a few among others. But
Mhm.
he is really picking, choosing roles. So I have a feeling that this is going to be at least a solid movie.
Yeah, if you watch like any of his interviews like regarding Twilight, like he is totally like committed to like exercising that part of his like career. Like he was as done with that part of his career as like a relatively large amount of the public was. And I don't know, I've because I first really like started to like watch him and fall in love with him after his Batman casting because like everyone was like, oh, the guy from Twilight like is Batman, and then I started, you know, the film people who had like paid attention to him, they're like, no, he's actually been like in like art cinema, like underground, like off the radar, and he's like totally like transformed himself. And I don't know, I think I just trust him, like you said, like he's very specific about his what movies he wants to be in, and I think like I trust Robert Pattinson's like choice, and like that alone like sold me on the movie, just the chance to see more of him because he's he's such a chameleon. He takes after the other Batman, Christian Bale.
Mhm.
I don't recognize him from like role to role,
Right.
and like from Good Time to The Lighthouse, like incredible performances and unrecognizable like characters. Like I don't see a trace of Pattinson in there, so like for him alone, I was already set to see this movie. And then again, like with No Time to Die and Dune, like the rest of the cast was just added reasons.
Yeah, I think Tom Holland's also really interesting
Mm-hmm.
because we've seen him in, ooh, he's in the Chris Hemsworth movie, In the Heart of the Sea, is it?
I believe so. I know. Yeah, I believe it is in the heart of the sea.
Yeah. But other than that, we've just really seen him as Spider-Man
Mhm.
because Cherry hasn't come out. So that's the only other non-Spider-Man role that's kind of close to being done. And I'm really curious to see what he looks like as an actor separate from
Yeah,
Spider-Man. I
yeah,
mean, Spider-Man is a character that, they kind of reboot every 5 to 10 years.
basically.
So you have your time, but it's also really important for an actor and their health long term to show that they can do other roles.
Right.
Because you have someone like Daisy Ridley who talks about or Mark Hamill who talks about because I was a lead in Star Wars, it was really hard to get cast in other stuff because
Right.
they only saw me as
Luke
that
Skywalker.
person from Luke Skywalker or Ray. Not going to say the last name, but Robert Pattinson did a great job of that.
Mhm.
He showed that he can be someone who's not that character from Twilight, and
Yeah,
he is an actor and he is a character actor beyond that.
yeah.
Now, Tom Holland and Spider-Man's a bigger franchise, but I think Tom Holland's trying to go out and prove that he's bigger than that with Uncharted, with this movie, The Devil All the Time, and with Cherry.
Yeah, like I'm like I have to say like I was really surprised like Holland was not only in the movie but like he's like the lead character because for a guy who's like whose career is basically only starting out, I would have thought like either him, his agent, or Disney would have been like pushing him to more stuff like what's the animated film Onward,
Onward, yeah.
like try and maintain that like youthful like I'd have assumed like it would be later in his career when he attempts something that's looks as dark and messed up as this film is. So and I don't know, I'm like really excited to see what he does and what is just a film that's all the on the end of like opposite of the spectrum compared to the Spider-Man films. And like my friends are always saying like Tom Holland like he's like such a great actor, and I'm like we've all only ever really seen him in Spider-Man. So now
Right.
he got to be the cute like awkward like charming high schooler. And now I'm excited to see him like first off like the idea of Tom Holland playing off against Robert Pattinson is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm just excited to see him take a role that's so diametrically opposed to like what his career has been so far.
Yeah, I think that's also a testament to what makes a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
Because a actor can be great in a role, and that can be because of the directing and the writing.
Mm-hmm.
But a great actor is great in all different areas.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna use the comparison of Robert Pattinson again because it's kind of a similar. Robert Pattinson is like Tom Holland, but 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of changing that narrative. And I think Tom Holland can do it. From the trailers, he really seems to um, feel a lot different than
Yeah.
how he feels, and he looks a lot different.
Yeah. There's like a haunted like quality to his character. Like he's like broken down. Like I don't know. This is like broken down quality. Like it's just like this. It was like disorienting to see like at first, just because it was like Peter Parker, but it's also like Peter Parker like thrown through like put it through like the meat grinder. And this um yeah it looks to be like a very different character for him.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna move on to Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Black Widow is an interesting film because it's slated to come out at the end of October, I believe, or beginning of
something,
November.
something like that around that
Yeah,
time.
and there are a lot of questions about it. Like, how are they going to release it? Now, we're going to see Mulan comes out.
Today,
Yeah,
as of today's filming.
filming. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're going to see how it does numbers wise.
Mm-hmm.
If it does really well numbers wise, it'll be interesting if they consider to put Black Widow on Disney Plus.
Which would be tricky because, as we saw with what happened with the Universal AMC fallout, that could set a kind of uncomfortable precedent.
Right, that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a moviegoer, and I love going to the movie theater. I understand now it's not really a safe option for most people,
Mm.
but movie theaters are the way really that movies are meant to be watched. You have surround sounds that no matter how good your home theater is, right?
Mm.
You're not going to get that. You're not going to get the sound of a Nolan movie, um, shaking your seat.
Mm.
You're not going to get the screen that's just like, it takes all your attention. You're not going to get that jaw-dropping visuals. Your screen's not going to have the colored spectrum that a
Right.
projector
You're
has in
not
a movie
you're
theater.
not gonna get like being in that zone where like barring like a crazy fire alarm, like you are there, like you are like no distractions, like you are there for the movie. It's like you in the movie, like you're in that zone, like you can't like really replicate at home.
Right. And I think it does a disservice for filmmakers to put it on Disney Plus, to be honest. Because the thing is, you don't intend for your film to be 30 minutes, let me pause the movie, go
Right.
make something, and then come back.
Yeah.
It's meant to be an encompassing experience, and you
Mm.
can't get that full experience uh, if you can't watch the whole film at once.
Right. That's why I feel like as tempting as an option would be for Disney to do so, especially seeing as how it's an MCU movie featuring like one of its longest like long like most consistent characters who's appeared has a long history with the franchise. It would be tempting for Disney to just like assume we'll make more money off of this, putting on Disney Plus like even compared to like Mulan. However, at the same time, I feel they recognize that like this is a big character in a big franchise, and like we, I think I trust Disney like recognizes that it would still be just better to put it on the screen. How the pandemic will be by that time, I'm not sure, but I feel it honestly could go like 50-50 depending on wherever Disney's like head is at.
Yeah. And to be fair to Disney, I mean, there are a lot of things that are um, making this difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I know their release slate is kind of a mess right now because they keep on having to shuffle stuff because of the pandemic.
Right.
And they may want to just get this film out so that they can show the next film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there may be, usually with Disney movies and Marvel, the MCU, I should say specifically, there is an order of operations.
Mm-hmm.
And they have shows like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which has started up production, which we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be holding back the scheduling, and they
Yeah.
just need to get that film out so they can move on. And Disney is losing tons of money from its parks,
Yes.
and they are probably not doing well on money in cash, even though they've made a lot of money lately. Because remember, they bought Fox for 72.4
Yeah.
billion or something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they need to start making money, and they
Right.
need to start, they have a responsibility to shareholders, and so they're going to start pushing out content. So on the other side, I do understand why that would why they would release it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Even if I don't agree with it, it makes sense, and I can
Right.
understand that like they may be in a financial situation where they think, oh, we have to release it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, people don't understand when they make a movie, they don't just bankroll the whole movie. They take out massive loans from banks,
Yeah,
right?
for
And
sure.
those banks have interest. And if you don't start paying back the interest on those movies,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that can really hurt you. Instead of a movie costing like 300 million to break even, all of a sudden it's 310, 320,
Yeah, exactly.
330. And all of a sudden it's harder for that movie to be successful.
I mean, yeah, like I'll ask you if they do put it on in theaters, will you go out of your way to risk it, barring like I don't know, they discover like the cure to COVID, like and like the pandemic is still going. Like, do you think you would like try like risk it?
Here's my thing. I think if you're gonna go to the movies to see any movie at all, like Tenet, for example,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you're safe. So I know movie theaters are requiring masks. I worked at a movie theater. the The cleaning already was pretty good between showings, and I know they've revved it up from talking to the movie theater, um, and that they made that a really high priority. I've looked at seating. they've definitely put social distancing into the seating arrangements. So if you're worried about that, the only things that has me concerned are just kind of feeling nervous and going through a movie where you're like, oh my gosh, does the person next to me have COVID? I'm not sure about it. Even if you're wearing a mask the whole movie, it's still nerve wracking, and maybe you
Right.
won't have that attention.
Right.
And it also depends on how COVID is in the area surrounding you.
Hmm.
I mean, are you having an outbreak in your area? There's no way I'm going.
Right. For
The
sure.
numbers have to be really, really low for me to consider going.
Hmm.
Um, because it's a responsibility not just to yourself, but for the rest of your family and the
Yeah.
people around you. Because COVID isn't something that it's like, oh well, I'm making the decision for myself. That
Right.
decision affects so many other people that you really have to be sure that it's safe.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Right. Um, but yeah, I kind of feel like we covered everything that has to do with Black Widow. There hasn't been too much new news about the film. I don't think they were going to release a new trailer. I think they'll probably release the same trailer because they released a ton of footage
Yeah.
before they moved the release date. So we'll move on to Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yes.
Now, if you know Aaron Sorkin, he's a famous writer. He wrote A Few Good Men, The Social Network,
Moneyball.
Moneyball, West Wing, Steve Jobs, and The Newsroom.
Right.
Those are just some of his movies. He's an amazing screenwriter, and he is putting his hands into the director's booth.
Hmm.
And this is, I don't believe it's his first, but it's one of his first directing jobs.
No, he in 2017 he made his debut with Molly's Game with Jessica
That's
Chastain.
correct. Yeah, that's great. That's a great film also.
Yes.
Um, the cast of this is pretty great. You have Eddie Redmayne, you have Sacha Baron Cohen, you have Jeremy Strong.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's been like
Yeah,
I can't remember like the last time I really saw him. He had the Edward Snowden movie in 2016, but
that was a really good performance. Yeah.
I'm glad to see he's back.
Yeah, and he's a good actor. If you've seen him in Brick, the Ryan Johnson film, it's a great
Right.
small independent film.
Mhm.
Given that's when he's way younger, Inception,
Even
and
in
Project Power that just came out.
yeah, even in like The Dark Knight Rises, I thought he did like a pretty good job in his like small supporting role.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. Other people who are in this movie, Yahya Abdul Mateen.
Yes.
If you have seen Watchmen
Or Aquaman.
or Aquaman,
Manta.
um, you know this guy is an amazing actor. I think he's one of the people who's going to break out as a star soon.
Yeah, I'm like waiting for it. Like I can't wait to be like I was one of like the first of his fans.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I can't wait to see. I'm so excited for this guy's career to just like
Yeah.
take off.
And it's going to. There's no
Yeah.
way it's not. I mean, he's
Mhm.
just delivering one after another, just amazing
I mean,
performances. There's no way.
he was nominated for an Emmy for his role in Watchmen.
I think a win.
I
That's a whole separate topic, but I don't think there's any way he doesn't win.
Yeah, that was I don't know, and I don't know if you've seen his reaction video. It's like the most like adorable thing. He's just like so genuinely excited, and I don't know. I love the guy. He's such a cool person.
Yeah. And going through the rest of the cast, we also have Mark Rylance. He's not someone who's super well known, but when you watch the movie, you'll be like, "Oh, I know that guy."
Yeah,
He's in a ton of movies as a supporting actor, and he's
yeah,
always delivering great performances. It's never anything where you're like, "Oh, he's the best person in that movie," but you're
right.
always like, "Wow, that was a really good performance."
Uh,
And
we have like Michael Keaton,
yeah,
John Carroll Lynch from Zodiac, I believe.
hmm
Honestly, like again, like reoccurring theme throughout all of this, just like just the cast people have been able to assemble is really like really interesting and really like crazy.
yeah. And this movie was acquired by Netflix, I believe,
Hmm.
a month or two ago. So it's coming out on Netflix. And the advantage of Netflix films that theatrical releases don't have is that they don't have to make money.
Right.
They have to keep people subscribed, and they have to get new subscribers.
Hmm.
Um, so they can bankroll these huge casts.
Mhm.
And I'm excited for this movie. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to release. I know it's relatively soon.
Mhm.
I believe it's December.
I
Uh,
think it might be sooner actually, like in the fall.
yeah, it might be. Uh, but I think it looks fantastic just based on the cast and
Yeah,
Aaron Sorkin as a writer director. I think I trust him
I'll
to
say
deliver a film.
yeah, I'll say out of all the films we've covered thus far, this one is the most. I know it's like a derogatory term, but like most Oscar like baity or whatnot. I would say this is the one that would
Hmm.
like with this cast, with this director, and like with the subject matter. I'm not sure how familiar you are with like this subject, but like it's about like these people who were charged with like I don't know like anti like inciting to riot charges during the
Right.
Vietnam War, and I feel like one this film could look depending on how Sorkin executes it, this could look really like interesting compared to everything that's happening like recently with like the Black Lives Matter movement, and I don't know, I
Hmm.
just feel like because like No Time to Die, Black Widow are all like action films. Like maybe they get like a visual effects thing, but visual effects nom. That's about it. Dune stands a chance to be like Mad Max Fury Road, like a big like pop culture thing that still was big at the Oscars. Devil all the time maybe, but like I feel like it's still like a bit out there
Right.
in a way. But the Trial of Chicago 7, I feel like it'll be a really good film, and I feel like if this could like score like Sorkin's probably a guaranteed like screenplay nod,
Right.
and I feel like any of these people could score like an acting nom depending on like however they go, and I just feel like as a whole this film could like be a big presence. Obviously it's still early because they moved the Oscar ceremony to like March or April.
Right.
Oh
Yeah, you can have there's an extra 2 month window for releasing
yeah,
films. Um, yeah, especially this year, which is going to be a weaker Oscar year, just because a lot of films are moving to next year just to
yeah.
kind of avoid the pandemic. So I definitely agree with you on that. So with that, we're going to move on to the next film, Wonder Woman 1984.
Very
So
excited for this one.
we got director Patty Jenkins coming back to
Mm-hmm.
direct again. Got Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, of
Chris
course.
Pine as Steve Trevor.
Yeah, I'll be really interested in how they bring him back.
Yes, I accidentally I actually rewatched the first one like only a few days ago, and I was always excited for this film as a comic book fan, but like I was like really fell in love with the first film's like handling of like Chris Pine and Gal Gadot's like chemistry and how these two play off each other. So just the chance to see those two like work with each other again is like alone just like really exciting to see.
Yeah, to touch on that, here's my thing.
Mm,
I hate fake deaths.
okay.
Um, this happens in Marvel movies all the time.
Mm,
Someone dies, oh, surprise, they're back.
right.
It really frustrates me. When someone's dead, I want them to stay dead.
So yeah.
So you have to justify um, why that person's still alive. And that's both through the story, as in, how does this person come back to life?
Mm,
Not feeling inauthentic or just kind of like, oh, that's weird.
yeah. I sorry, I didn't mean to cut
Yeah,
you
no,
off.
you're fine.
I was
And then it's
yeah.
they have to have a purpose.
Yes. Well, I was gonna say like the fact that Patty Jenkins made the choice to jump this film like several decades, and still like there's a line in the most recent trailer where Chris Pine is like, "Oh, you haven't like aged a day." Like I think I think Jenkins recognizes like exactly what you're saying, and I don't think she would have killed off Steve Trevor just to bring him back like without realizing like yes, this is like this like we're gonna this is specifically to move the film forward, the film move Diana's story forward, and not like say when they fake killed Nick Fury in the Winter Soldier,
Right.
and then like they shot him and then they're like, oh, actually never mind actually. So
Yeah.
I think yeah, like I remember when Patty Jenkins revealed on her own that Chris Pine was back as Steve Trevor, like it wasn't spoiled or anything, like she revealed on her own, so I feel like she's confident in whatever decision she made to bring him back.
Hmm.
So I get what you're saying. I just feel like she also, Jenkins made this specific choice like with a specific intent on mind. Now, granted, I'm not sure. Maybe we don't know how it'll play out, but I don't know. I'm just really excited to see Chris Pine back as Steve.
Yeah, I am too. And looking at the latest trailer, I love the highlights on Pedro Pascal.
Hmm.
I think he eats up every role he's in.
Yeah,
Um,
underrated actor.
really underrated. I mean, he's in The Mandalorian, right? That's pretty clear. Um,
Had a role
but
in Game of Thrones too, right?
oh, he's amazing in Game of Thrones.
That's
He's the
great. Yeah,
best part of that. I think it's season 4 of Game of Thrones.
that's awesome to hear.
Amazing, amazing. And yeah, even like small supporting roles, just he's really good at delivering performances. What's the time? It's a JC
Oh, the
Chander
Critical
movie.
Frontier.
Yes, he's in that, and he's really
I
good in
remember
that.
watching it. Yes, he's just an overall reliable like actor,
Hmm.
and I feel like, especially since like here with this role as a Maxwell Lord, I believe this character's name, he seems to be like not going over the top, but he seems to be like it's just a difference to like the more stoic characters in like Mandalorian or even in Triple
Right.
Frontier. So I'm excited for that. And speaking of breaking from mold, Kristen Wiig, I'm actually like I think that'll be like a I think that'll be like a crazy performance. I think I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. My thing is, I love everything in that trailer about her
Mm,
until it looks like it's her fighting Wonder Woman,
mm,
and they show the CG version of Cheetah.
yeah,
Um, and I was like, oh no, it's going to be one of these films where everything's great, but then the CG
mm,
just doesn't look good.
right,
And it it's a trailer. It's a few images. You don't know if it's a finished product, right? They
right,
could still be rendering stuff to finish post production. But I wasn't completely sold on the look. Given
that's
it's also in the dark. It's not that long.
mm,
You're kind of freeze framing, so it's not really meant for that.
mm,
Um, and I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but that is something that like was kind of a red flag. I'm a
yeah,
little bit concerned.
that's totally fair. I mean, bringing to life the character of like Cheetah was always going to be. It's either going to be a practical suit, which is going to look weird, or it's going to be CGI, which is always going to be 50-50. For
Right.
me, the benchmark for animated people as cat-looking creatures was cats, and I was like, well, this looks from the few screen grabs a little better than that. So I mean,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I'm like yeah, like you said, it's a trailer. You're like hitting this like the pause button like just to get a clear like frame.
Right.
So, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And moving on, let's move on to Candyman. So there's a lot to talk about this movie.
Mhm.
It's supposed to release October 16th, 2020. It's coming from director Nia DaCosta, who, if
Mhm.
you guys haven't heard, she just got cast. I don't think that's the right word for director, but uh, she's set to direct the new Captain Marvel movie.
Right.
I've heard good
Props to
stuff
her.
about her. I've heard that Candyman is really good, just from reading different stuff and kind of gauging excitement for the film. And the people at Marvel must have seen Candyman and really been excited for her as a director to give her such a big role.
Yeah.
Because she came out of independent filmmaking. I think she made a small horror movie and then jumped onto Candyman.
Yeah. I mean that's the best way to go. That's how it happens. Um, I've never seen the original Candyman. I don't know if you have.
No, I haven't either.
Uh, I saw this trailer and I was the reason. I mean, first it was a great trailer. I was like very like fascinated by it. But like again, just to call back to our Chicago Seven discussion, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is in it, and
I know.
he
He's
is front
back.
he is front and center in this film. I'm like, can you imagine like working with Aaron Sorkin, then becoming like, well, first like you have two big comic book franchises, work with Aaron Sorkin, get an Emmy nomination for one of your comic book roles, and then now you're like in the center of this iconic like cult classic horror franchise. I'm like, that is like
Yeah,
so
written
happy.
by Jordan Peele.
Yeah, that too. I forgot about that. Like, I'm so happy for you, man. Like that's an epic resume right there.
Yeah, he's just killing it right now. And if you've seen the trailers for it, they look creepy. The tone, like there are different tones of horror, and this is like a thriller horror type
Yeah,
of tone. And the trailers are just amazing.
yeah.
The score of the trailers. I think people don't give enough credit to the music that happens in trailers and how that affects it.
I think for this particular one, I think it's definitely Jordan Peele because I remember like this gave me Us vibes. Do you
Right?
remember
Yeah.
Us like remixed that song
Hmm.
and Candyman did the same thing, and so I was like, this is definitely like this is definitely so cool to like see and hear.
Yeah. The rest of the cast, I'm not really too familiar with their work, to be honest. But
I've
within the trailer, I'm excited.
I've seen one of them. That's Tony Todd as the titular Candyman. He voiced the villain. We voiced one of the villains on the CW Flash show,
Hmm.
and he didn't appear like in person. He was just a voice. But again, I'm not sure how he functions in this film. If he'll be there in person, if he's just a voice again. But if he is just a voice, that's I can assure you that is a totally like like because in his role as the Flash, like even though it's like a CW like superhero show, it was still like dark and like like uh like an inhuman like creature. Like it was like very like scary and intense. And I think from the fact that, and I believe he actually is reprising his role as like Candyman, so it's a role he's familiar with, and he's just a great. From what I saw in the Flash, he's a great like voice actor. So to see him pitted against Yaya is going to be another just crazy face off.
Yeah, definitely. My only thing is, I don't know if it'll stick to its release date.
Yes, again,
That's my thing with every film that's coming out soon.
basically, yeah,
It's playing a game. Is it going to stick to its release date? Is it not? Is it going to go to
streaming.
streaming? Is it going to go straight to VOD?
Mhm.
Um, there are tons of different ways this film can go. I don't know what the budget is. The budget kind of depends on where it goes. If
Right.
it's a small budget, you can put it straight to VOD and it'll probably make its money back.
Yeah.
But if it's a movie that costs over like 30 to 40 million,
Yeah.
which it starts getting into the middle budget range, you probably have to push it back because you're not going to get the numbers you need to
Right.
um, make make money on the film.
I mean, as with all the films we just discussed, like I hope this one gets released. Like I want all of them to get released. I also want this one in particular just because I think as a horror movie that is such a sensory like experience, even more so than something like is that like as good as I anticipate Chicago 7 to be. Like it won't be like an all out like Invisible Man type assault on your senses. And I think like for Candyman, like you do need that, like as we were talking about, like that sound system, that like environment. So I
Yeah,
hope it gets released.
I think with horror movies especially, having that experience in the theater,
Mhm.
in a dark room, lights off, the sound,
Yeah,
you don't have like a lawnmower going on in the background while you're watching a movie or cars driving by. It's just the theater. You
you
get
can't
that
run out if you're
tension.
scared.
Yeah, you
You're
get the
stuck.
tension that you need in a horror movie.
Mhm.
I mean, I know for me that's really important. I know when we were watching The Invisible Man, I watched it in the middle at like 12 at night,
Mhm.
um, so that there would be no cars passing by. I could have all the lights off,
Right.
and I could get as close as possible to getting that experience.
Yeah.
But it's still not the same, and it hurts the film that it's not in a movie theater.
Yeah.
So I hope if this film, as much as I want to see this film,
Mhm.
I hope if they don't stick to their release date, that they just push it back because I think that's the best thing for
Right.
the movie itself.
Mhm. Just to get that
So,
all around experience.
oh yeah, definitely. So moving on to our last film, someone that Aaron Sorkin partnered with for The Social Network, famous and acclaimed director David Fincher
Right.
is coming out with the movie Mank on Netflix. It's supposed to release, I believe, in October.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah, and its cast looks pretty solid. It's not one of the highlight Fincher casts, I don't think, like a Zodiac was or
Right.
a Fight Club.
Mhm.
But if you think about it, when The Social Network came out, those actors weren't really that well known.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nobody knew who Andrew Garfield or like Jesse Eisenberg
right.
is.
And now they're well-known actors. You know, Spider-Man. Gosh, I'm blanking on the Jesse Eisenberg's character in DC.
Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor. I don't know how I
Luthor and
missed that.
like
I watched the movie last night.
nice.
Um, but in Army Hammer, who's also great. But
Right. I remember.
you know, he has a trend where he can break people out as stars.
Yeah, for sure.
And you
Yeah,
have Amanda Seinfeld or Seyfried.
yeah.
I don't know how Seifeld. Yeah,
Something like
I'm
that.
sorry for mispronouncing her name. That's my bad. Um, Lily Collins, Gary Oldman, who's always great.
Yes.
Is it Darkest Hour?
Yeah, Darkest Hour was his win, I believe.
Yeah, and he's in the Batman films, right?
Yeah, Commissioner Gordon.
Mr. Gordon. Yeah,
Best comic book castings ever.
yeah.
Great in the movie.
He's great, and I know he has some other roles that you can't pull everything off the top of your head,
Yeah.
but he's a great actor, both leading and supporting.
Mhm.
I haven't seen a trailer for this movie.
No, no trailer, nothing has been released just yet. All that people have been able to go on thus far has just been everything on the Wikipedia page. So just who's involved, the plot, and that's been about it. If it does come out in October, then at this like Netflix has a tendency to release their trailers for stuff like this like a month before. So expect it anywhere from next week to like 2 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, it's weird because Netflix, because they don't do the theatrical release,
Mhm.
they can just put stuff up a month
Yeah,
before because people are going to be like, oh, well, it's not like we're going to the theater. It's going to be on Netflix, and we
yeah,
go
it's
on
gonna be
Netflix
there.
all the time anyways.
Right,
So they don't have to do that marketing,
right.
which stinks in the way of being a movie fan, and kind of building excitement.
Mhm.
But also for Netflix, I'm like, it makes more sense. It saves them a ton
It's
of
their
money,
method. Yeah, it's their method.
and it's more effective marketing.
Right.
Just to give people an idea of what this movie's about, it follows screenwriter Herman J.
Mankiewicz.
Mancusic.
I've been reading
Manuic?
as Mankowitz, but I could probably be
Yeah,
butchering it too.
yeah. I'm struggling on pronouncing names today. But basically, the writer of Citizen Kane's uh, tumultuous development of the film, which becomes a masterpiece. But I think it was a chaos in production. Um, so we'll see how this turns out. I
I'm just,
wasn't really sold on this based on the logline, to be honest.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's not the most. It seems like it's a biographical drama, and those are always like it's either like you have something like F. Gary Gray, Straight Outta Compton, where it's like this popular music group, or then you have something like as obscure as not just the making of Citizen Kane, but like about this guy who wrote Citizen Kane. You're kind of like,
Right.
why does this matter? I think this is ultimately like a film that is really going to be sold on the people behind it. Like again, like Gary Oldman as the protagonist, and like I feel like this is definitely one for like the cinephiles because it's like these days like people are like, "What's Citizen Kane?" As like unfortunate as that is, but like everyone in like a film circle knows Citizen Kane. And I mean, the last time David Fincher did a biographical film, he did The Social Network,
Yeah.
which is one of the greatest films ever made. So I don't know. I'm excited just because like again like with The Social Network, this subject feels like so unlike Fincher. Like Fincher's like
Yeah.
psychological, like Fight Club and Gone Girl. What's the one with Daniel Craig? The girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and then like so I think the fact that he chose to do this means this will be a biopic that will look very different than like your standard issue one. And then I don't know. It's like David Fincher, like a hugely underrated director. Like how he hasn't won an Oscar yet, like that is insane. It's
It's
incredible.
crazy. The Social Network is one of the best directed films I've seen.
Who I believe, and like who even like that didn't even win like Best Picture that year. That was like the Colin Firth movie, The King's
The
Speech.
King's Speech, yeah,
Yeah, like who like no offense to that movie, I'm sure it was great, but like no one talks about that. Like,
yeah. I think there's a movie can be great when it comes out,
mhm,
and people, you know, like Bohemian Rhapsody. A lot
yeah,
of people were like, this film is awesome, right? When it
yeah,
came out,
big
but
hype,
now no one really talks about it.
right?
And while awards are important, and I think it's cool to get recognition,
Hmm.
The Social Network is still being talked about, and The King's Speech is kind of a film that we've all forgotten.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, in a way, that's the award right there.
yeah. So while you may have the instant gratification of an award, I think Fincher, you know, he's doing fine.
Yeah, he is.
He has a legacy, and he will be, you
Yeah,
know, known as one of the best directors to
for sure.
have ever lived.
I will say on the topic of awards, this one, like Chicago 7, does feel like it's going for the Oscars. Like I could definitely see like somehow like Oldman getting a best actor nod. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just like no Oldman's just that great. Fincher, like I mean it's David Fincher. He could honestly pull off the um, best director nom. And I'm like reading now through the information about the film. Apparently, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross from the the Social Network are comprising the score.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so honestly, like this film has all the elements to be like again like another like going for the Oscar. But I mean, I think it'll be an interesting film. It's not something I would immediately go out of my way to be honest, but it's coming out on Netflix, and so I think it'll be an interesting film to see.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's going to be a film. It's really interesting because Netflix films are actually eligible this year if they just come out on Netflix based on the change in the Oscar rules.
Right.
Um, I see this film being a film that's going to be nominated for a lot of Oscars because there's this theme of films about Hollywood
Yeah.
getting nominations.
Yeah.
Hollywood loves films about themselves. It's
Yeah.
just a fact.
That's how like was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right.
Um, that's most recent one. Like, yeah, for sure. And for something as acclaimed and beloved as Citizen Kane, like you kind of wrote yourself like onto the ballots already.
Right. And they want the publicity about the industry. It's just kind of like a fact
Right.
that people love talking. You know, anyone loves talking about themselves, right?
Right.
And so that's the way, you know, the Oscars is Hollywood being able to talk about themselves and be like, oh, look at me, look at me. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's kind of
Right.
that. And so I think it's a definite nomination. I would bet money that it'll get nominated for Best Picture, Best
Probably.
Director.
Yeah.
I don't know about Best Actor. That's always a risk. You never
Sure.
know, but definitely on those two.
For sure.
And that's really it as far as stuff that's coming out soon that's of notice. But thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or don't if that's your thing. But definitely keep on checking out the videos. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
See ya.
Take care.